Welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we are diving into a beautiful, meaningful story, A Letter to God by G.L. Fuentes, from Class 10 English First Flight book. This is not just a story about a farmer. It is a story about faith, kindness, and irony. Irony means the situation or expression where the opposite of what one is expecting happens, often in a surprising or humorous way. So stay till the end to understand the complete summary, themes, and message, all in simple words. So for the first activity, we have sending a money order to someone through the post office. We shall deal with this later while answering the book by questions. So let us go directly to the story. So our story begins in a small valley where there is just one house on top of a low hill, the home of a farmer named Lencho. Lencho is a hard-working and hopeful man. His family depends on the crops in their field, especially the corn that's almost ready for harvest. Looking at the sky, Lencho says, "Now we are really going to get some watermelon." And his wife replies, "Yes, God willing." Soon the rain begins to fall and Lencho is filled with joy. He compares the raindrops to new coins, big drops size of 10-cent pieces and small ones like 5-cent pieces, because he believes the rain will bring good harvest and lots of money. But suddenly the weather changes. Looking at the sky, Lencho begins to be worried. So the rain begins to fall hard and Lencho is very worried. Large ice falls start falling from the sky, destroying everything, the crops, the flowers, the trees. The pleasant rain has turned into a violent hailstorm. Within an hour, the entire valley turns white, as if covered with salt. Lencho's field is ruined. He and his family are heartbroken. Lencho says sadly, "This year has been very great. A plague of locusts would not have left more than this. The hail has left nothing this year, and we will have no corn." That night, there is no laughter, only worry and sadness. Now let us see what the whole comprehension check deals with. What did Lencho hope for? Lencho hoped for some good rain for his harvest, so that the water can help his crops, and because this year his fields needed more moisture for a good harvest. Second question. Why did Lencho say the raindrops were like new coins? Lencho compared the raindrops to new coins because he believed that the rain would bring him a rich harvest, therefore more money and prosperity. Third question. How did the rain change? What happened to Lencho's fields? The rain suddenly changed into a hailstorm. Large hailstones fell for about an hour and destroyed all his crops, leaving the field white as if covered with salt. Fourth question. What were Lencho's feelings when the hail stopped? When the hail stopped, Lencho was heartbroken and filled with sadness. He realized that everything was ruined and that his family would have no food or income for the year. Now let's go into the next part. Despite the heavy loss, Lencho does not lose faith. He believes God will help him. He tells his family no one dies of hunger. The next morning, Lencho decides to write a letter to God. He writes, "God, If you don't help me, my family and I will go hungry this year. I need 100 pesos in order to sow my field again and to live until the crop comes, because the hailstorm has destroyed my field. Lencho places the letter in an envelope and writes "To God" on it and drops it in the mailbox. Now comes the fun part. He goes to the postman. At the post office, the postman laughs when he sees the letter addressed to God. He shows it to the postmaster. The postmaster first laughs too, but then becomes serious. He says, "What fate! I wish I had the faith of the man who wrote this letter." To not break Lencho's faith, he decides to help him after reading the letter. He collects money from his employees, friends, and gives a part of his own salary. Though he cannot collect the full amount of 100 pesos, he manages to send 70 pesos in an envelope, signed simply as God. Now let us check the questions. Oral comprehension. First question. Who or what did Lencho have faith in? What did he do? Lencho had complete faith in God. He believed that God would see everything and could help him in any situation. And if he was in trouble, he would give him money. So he wrote a letter to God, asked for 100 pesos to sow his field again and support his family after the hailstorm. Second question. Who read the letter? The postman saw the letter first and then showed it to the postmaster, who read it. Third question. What did the postmaster do then? The postmaster was deeply moved by Lencho's faith. To keep the faith alive, he decided to send money to Lencho. He collected money from his employees, friends, and also gave part of his own salary. He then put the money in an envelope and signed it as God. Now comes the final part. Next Sunday, Lunchbook comes to the post office and asks if there was any letter for him. The postman, smiling, hands it to him. But when he counts the money, his face changes. There are only 70 pesos, because he knew God would never fail him to send him money, but the amount was less. He gets angry and immediately writes another letter. And he says, "God, of the money that I asked for, only 70 pesos reached home. Send me the rest, since I need it very much. But don't send it to me through the mail, because the post office employees are such a bunch of crooks." Signed, Lencho. Now let us see what the oral comprehension asks us. First question. Was Lencho surprised to find a letter for him with the money in it? No, Lencho was not surprised to find the letter with the money, because he had complete faith in the God, was sure that he would send money to him for helping. Second question. What made him angry? Lencho became an angry man when he counted the money and found that only 70 pesos have arrived instead of 100, which he had asked for. He thought God would never make a mistake, so he believed that the post office employees had stolen the remaining 30 pesos. So this is what he took as irony. When the postmaster reads Lencho's second letter, he feels shocked and amused. Here lies the irony. The very people who help Lencho, the post office employees, are the one he suspects of stealing. Lencho's faith in God is absolute, but his faith in human becomes zero. Welcome back. Now we will see the book back questions and exercises. Now for the first exercise, we have a money order filling from. For this, let us take for example that a brother Rajiv is sending his sister Leena some money. So in order to fill this, we are writing to pay the rupees of 1000 only in words, and next we have to mention it in numerical numbers. Next we are saying the address, mentioning of the address of the receiver, that is Leena, she lives in Chennai, and we have to mention the correct pin code. Next we are mentioning the date in which the person is sending the money order. We can use today's date. Next we are signing the sender. So this is, since we are using the example of Raji sending to Leena, we have to mention Raji. Next, in the money order office section, we have to mention the money order number. You can mention any number. Next, you have to mention today's date. Then the amount in words, 1000 only. Next will be the numerical form, 1000. Then you have to mention an assistant's name and the postmaster name. Can mention any two names. In the second section, we have to mention that received amount. This is for the receiver, 1000 only. Then we have to put the signature of the payee. Payee is the receiver of the money. So in this case, it is Leena, the sister. Next, we have to mention the witness or the identifier. We can mention any name. And the paying official. You can mention any name here. Be sure to mention the same money order number. That is what we have used here should be the same here. Next, mention the same date. And next, we have to put in the sender's address. That is the brother's address, Rajiv's. So we are mentioning Rajiv, he lives in Bangalore. And we have to put the correct pin code. Make sure you remember the correct pin codes and use the same for every city. And next, you have to mention the amount being sent. That is 1000 only. And this will be received by the payee on few days later after the money has been sent. So you can add a few days to the actual date and you can mention the date here. Then you have to give the signature of the payee. Since Leena is receiving the money, we are going to mention Leena's name here. And then you have a section for space for communication. This has been reserved for any personal messages the sender needs to send to the receiver. So since we have an example of Rajiv to Leena, a brother to a sister, we are just mentioning that he has been not able to come to the hometown for the leave and he has not been able to make in time for her birthday. So he is sending some money for her birthday. Sorry, I couldn't make it home this week. Sending some money for your birthday. You can mention a little message here. So this is how we will be filling a money order form. Next, we have some questions regarding. So complete the following statements. In addition to the sender, the form has to be signed by both the assistant and the postmaster, as mentioned here. Okay. Next, the acknowledged section of the form is sent back to the post office of the sender after the payee or receiver receives it. Okay. The space for communication section is used for personal messages. Any small message that you want to send to the receiver, you can send here. The form has 6 sections. The sender needs to fill 4 and the receiver needs to fill 2. So let's go back to the book back questions. Thinking about the text. Who does Lencho have complete faith in? Which sentences in the story tells you this? So Lencho has complete faith in God and he believes that God knows everything and will help him in his need. Why does postmaster send money to Lencho? Why does he sign the letter God? Here we have to see that postmaster was very much moved by Lencho's faith, and so Lencho's faith is also should not be shaken. So the postmaster, in order to protect Lencho's faith, he sends the money to Lencho. Now in this first question, they have asked which sentences in the story tells you this. Now I will mention those sentences. You can see but in the hearts of all those lived in that solitary house in the middle of the valley, there was one single hope, help from God. So this sentence mentions God. Then God always says no one dies of hunger. And Lencho thought only of his one good hope, which is the help of God, whose eyes, as he has been instructed, sees everything. So he believes in God. Now for the next question. Why does the postmaster send money to Lencho, and why does he sign the letter God? Postmaster sends money to Lencho because he was moved by Lencho's faith and he does not want to disappoint or shake it. So he collects money from his employees, friends and his own salary to help Lencho. He signs the letter as God so that Lencho's faith will be much more protected and he will believe that the money really came from God and he will remain strong in his faith. Did Lencho try to find out who had sent the money to him, why or why not? No, Lencho did not try to find the money because he was certain that the money came directly from God. And his faith was so strong and unquestioning that he didn't think it would come from anywhere else. Next question. Who does Lencho think has taken the rest of the money? What is the irony in this situation? We already saw what was irony. When something happens when one was not expecting it to go the way they feel like. So, what happened, do you think? So, Lencho thinks the post office employees have stolen the money from him. And he calls them a bunch of crooks. The irony is that the very people who helped him raise the money and give him, he thought they were the thieves and they helped in stealing from him. So he accuses them of cheating. So Lencho's faith in God is firm, but his trust in humans is lost, which makes the ending both sad and funny. That is the irony. Are there people like Lencho in the real world? What kind of person would you say he is? You may select appropriate words from the box to answer the question. So there were a couple of words here. So we have to choose whatever actually fits the character of Lencho. Now we can say that there are people like Lencho who have strong faith and simple hearts. Lencho is innocent, hardworking, and deeply religious, but he is also very naive and unquestioning because he blindly believes in divine help and cannot see human goodness behind it. So the words naive and unquestioning clearly depicts Lencho's characters. So there are two kinds of conflict in this story, between humans and nature and between humans themselves. How are these conflicts illustrated? For humans and nature, you can see that Lencho's crops were destroyed and the hailstorm destroyed all of his crops. So this shows nature's power can ruin human effort and hard work. And conflicts between humans, you can say that the postmaster and his employees, they help out Lencho out of kindness, but Lencho misunderstands them as thieves, and this shows his lack of trust and understanding among humans. So we'll go to the next topic, thinking about language. Look at the following sentence. Suddenly a strong wind began to blow, and along with the rain, very large hailstones began to fall. So hailstones are small balls of ice. So similarly, they have given us various climatic conditions that can be associated with their meanings. So we need to find what those climatic conditions are. So for the first one, a violent tropical storm in which strong winds move in a circle. So what do you think this might be? I'll give you a pause. It has a C in the middle, and let us see in the given words, and you can find cyclone can match this. So we mention as cyclone. Next one, extremely strong wind. So it is a 4-letter word, and the only 4-letter word is gale. Next is a violent tropical storm with a very strong winds. So this one must be typhoon, because the only word that has a P in it. So we are going to mention as typhoon. Next is a violent storm whose center is a cloud in the shape of a funnel. We mostly have seen this on many videos and movies. Definitely a hurricane. Violent storm with strong winds, especially in the western Atlantic Ocean. Oh, I have mentioned it wrongly. So it is a tornado. Even I am wrong sometimes. So it's a tornado. The next one, a violent storm with strong winds, especially in the western Atlantic Ocean, is a hurricane. And a very strong wind that moves very fast in a spinning movement and causes a lot of damage is a whirlwind. Okay, we have now completed this one. Next one, notice how the word hope is used in the sentences. I hope it passes away quickly. And there was a single hope, help from God. One acts as a verb and one acts as a noun. Okay. Next one, we are going to match sentences from column A with the meanings of hope in column B. Will you get the subjects you want to study in college? I hope so. So, you are wanting something to happen and thinking it quite possible. So, it may happen for you. I hope you don't mind my saying this, but I don't like the way you are arguing. So, they do not like the way you are talking to someone because it is offending them or disturbing it. So showing concern that what you say should not offend or disturb the other person. You have to be polite and kind to everyone. This discovery will give us a new hope to HIV/AIDS sufferers. So it is talking about a new beginning, new hope. So a feeling that something good will probably happen. We are hoping against hope that our judges would not notice our mistakes. So you are praying to God that your mistakes remain hidden. Wishing for something to happen, although it is very, very unlikely because judges always see everything. I called early in the hope of speaking to her before she went to school. So thinking that this would happen, it may or may not happen. So depending on the time, the person may leave early for school or she may be late. So the person can meet or cannot meet her. Just when everybody had given up hope, the fishermen came back 7 days after the cyclone. So thinking that this would happen, stopped believing that this is good, that this good thing would happen because they believed that after a cyclone, the boat might be lost at sea. But they were really surprised that the boat came back. So that is what it is. Stopped believing that this good thing would happen. So next we have the relative clauses. Now, talking about relative clauses, they are small parts of the sentence that give us extra information about a noun. Usually a person or a thing that has already been mentioned. They often start with who, whom, whose and which. So they give us more information and they are called relative clauses. So for example, we can see in the sentence, all morning Lencho, who knew his fields intimately, looked at the sky. Okay. The woman who was preparing supper replied, yes, God willing. So here in the parts, in between commas are relative clauses. Between the commas and between the dashes are relative clauses. So they tell us about Lencho and the woman, but the sentence would still make sense without them also. You see, all morning Lencho looked at the sky. The woman replied, yes, God willing. So it was an extra information about the subject. Okay. These are called non-defining relative clauses because they add extra information, something we already know about. Okay, because he has been already looking at the sky and he is just mentioning another information that because he knew his fields intimately. So, if the clause comes in the middle, it will have a comma before it and after it. It can be also divided by 2 dashes also. But if the relative clause comes at the end, it will just have a full stop at the end. So let us see the exercise. Join the sentences given below with who, whom, whose. So the first one, I go to Mumbai. Mumbai is a commercial capital of India. I often go to Mumbai, which is the commercial capital of India. Okay. My mother, who is going to host a TV show on cooking, she cooks very well. We have to add who. My mother, who cooks very well, is hosting a TV show. Next question. These sports persons are going to meet the president. Their performance has been excellent. You have to use the word whose. So these sports persons whose performance has been excellent are going to meet the president. Lencho prayed to God. His eyes see into our minds. We have to use the word whose. Lencho prayed to God, whose eyes see into our minds. Next, this man cheated me. I trusted him. You have to use the word whom. This man whom I trusted cheated me. So this is how you use the relative clause. So sometimes the relative clause can be hidden. So for example, the house, the only one in the entire valley, sat on the crest of a low hill. So here we are not mentioning any relative clause since it is hidden. We can rewrite this as the house, which was the only one in the entire valley, sat on the crest of a low hill. So it can be remaining hidden or we can mention it implicitly using the word which. Now let's go to the next topic. Using negatives for emphasis. Here we are going to mainly use no, not or nothing with the sentences. In this, what the thing is, we are going to use it for emphasis and also show the absence of it. Okay, because it not only shows the absence but also the emphasis of it. In the story, Lencho has used many negative expressions. For example, this year we will have no corn. The hail has left us nothing. These aren't raindrops falling from the sky. They are new coins. So he is saying that these are not raindrops, but they are coins for him. These show the absence of no corn, nothing left, and no ordinary rain. But sometimes these negatives are used for emphasis to make the idea stronger. For example, Lencho had done nothing else but see the sky towards the northeast. So he had done nothing else but only this, just looked up at the sky. So this man went out for nothing other reason than to feel the rain. So he went out just for that one reason. Then Lencho showed not the slightest surprise on seeing the money, because he was not surprised at all because he believed that God will send him the money. Next one, we will deal with the Exercises. Find the sentences in the stories with negative words and express the following ideas emphatically. So, the trees lost all their leaves. Not a leaf remained on the trees. The letter was addressed to God Himself. It was nothing less than a letter to God. The postman saw this address for the first time in his career because it was new to him that somebody was writing to God. So, never in his career as a postman he had known that address. So, the person has not even imagined a letter would come for God from that address. So, that is the rhyme. So, next we will see about metaphors. So, a metaphor is a figure of speech that compares two things directly without using like or as. So, and it mentions a quality or feature of one thing and it is being transferred to another thing. So, it is transferring of a quality of one thing to describe another thing. Okay, you will see examples. The leg of the table. The leg supports our body. So, the leg is being an object that supports the table. The heart of the city. Heart is the important organ of the center of our body. So, it is used to describe something that is central to our body, and same thing, it is central to a city also. So, let us see the examples now. The cloud, the metaphor is huge mountains of clouds. Why is this being mentioned as mountains of clouds is because just to mention the sheer size of them, because they were really huge. So, mountains are the largest things the person has seen. So, they are mentioning it as mountains of clouds. Next is the raindrops. The new coins are used as the metaphor. So, it mentions that the new coins is a metaphor for bringing wealth. The raindrops are a metaphor for bringing wealth to them. Hailstones. Hailstones are the metaphor for the hailstones are frozen pearls or silver coins, as mentioned by Lencho. So, what their quality is being compared is the beauty of them and the hardness of them, because hailstones are really hard and they can do certain damage. So, the hardness too, and because they are mentioned as pearls, they are beautiful to look at. Next is the locust. The locust is a grasshopper which really hurts crops and damages them. So, it is being compared to a plague. A plague is a deadly disease that spreads very rapidly and leaves many people dead. So, Lencho has compared the locust as a plague. So, those things he has compared to the hailstorm, as how the hailstorm had completely destroyed his field. And imagining that even a locust would have left some crops unharmed so that he could take it for harvest. But the hailstorm had destroyed them completely. So, Lencho was a ox of a man. Who was an ox of a man? It was Lencho, because he was a hard-working and strong man. So, that was his qualities, strength and hard work. Now, next is the speaking exercise, which you will be conducting it within class. Next is the listening exercise. We have a letter down given below and we have to read it so that we can answer these questions. Let's go read it. So, I will give you time to go down and read it. You can pause the video. Then you can come back and answer these questions. The writer apologizes, that is, says sorry, because she has not written in a very long time. The writer has sent this to the reader. So, the writer was written by someone to Aarti. The reason for not writing earlier is that they had just moved to a new house and they were quite busy in unpacking and rearranging the stuff. So, the writer sent it to the Aarti in the month of January 2006. Sarah goes to Little Feet School. And who is writing to who? Jaya is writing to Aarti. Where and when were they last together? They were last together at Bangalore last year. So next one is the writing exercise. You have to design a poster for your area which will be conducted in the class. So that ends book by questions for the lesson A Letter to God. Next we will see in the part about the poem. See about the poem section of chapter 1. The Dust of Snow by Robert Frost. This poem shows how a small incident in nature can have a big effect on a person's mood. When a crow shakes off a snow particles from a hemlock tree onto the poet, it changes his gloomy mood and makes him feel cheerful again. So this teaches us that even small unpleasant things in life can bring joy and positivity. So a crow is considered something that is gloomy or inauspicious, and just by shaking down some snow from a hemlock tree, which is also considered poisonous, the author's mood, the poet's mood, which was really upset or he was sad against something, was changed to a cheerful mood. So let us now see the book back exercises. Thinking about the poem. So what is a dust of snow? What does the poet say has changed his mood, and how has the poet's mood changed? A dust of snow refers to a tiny particles of snow, the tiny snowflake, that is called the dust of snow, and it has fallen from the branches of a tree. The poet's mood changes when the crow shakes this dust of snow from a hemlock tree onto him, because he has been sitting under the tree for now. So before this incident, the poet was in a sad or a regretful mood, and this small occurrence had made him cheerful again and made him feel refreshed. So it saved the part of the day that he was otherwise had termed as rude or rude, R-U-E-D, rude, or regretted wasting in glue. Here is rude. Okay. The next question. How does Frost present nature in this poem? The following questions may help you think of an answer. What are the birds that are usually named in poems? And do you think a crow is often mentioned? So we usually see in poems that the poet usually thinks of beautiful birds like nightingales, doves, robins, and larks. So a crow, on the other hand, is rarely used in poetry because it is black and harsh voiced, because it just caws, and caws, caws, and it's not a melodious bird or kind of a bird that you think immediately when you think of the word beauty or happiness. So it is often seen as an unlucky bird or an ominous bird that is mostly associated with death and funerals. The image that usually comes to mind when you think of a crow is dark and not an ordinary friendly bird. But Frost here has used it in a positive and surprising way. The next question. What is a hemlock tree? And why does the poet write about more beautiful trees such as maples or oak or pine trees? So hemlock is actually a poisonous tree and not usually associated with beauty or cheerfulness. So Frost deliberately chose this tree instead of something such as maple, oak, to show that even something that is really unpleasant in nature can bring beauty and comfort to a person. So the next question. What do the crow and hemlock represent? Joy or sorrow? What does the dust of snow that crow shakes off the hemlock tree stands? So the hemlock is a poisonous tree. So, and crow is black, and it mainly signifies an ominous feature. So both of them symbolize the dark and cheerless side of nature. Sorrow, gloom, sadness, those things. Or even sometimes death. Because hemlock poisoning was very common around old days. So next, the thing is, what is considered as joy? So, dust of snow is considered as joy because it was shaken off the branches of the tree and it gave a new hope and refreshed feel to the poet. So, it symbolizes hope, renewal, and joy in the poet. So, dust of snow symbolizes joy. Next question. Have there been times when you felt depressed or hopeless? So this one is a personal question which you have to answer by yourself. But we can provide some examples such as like you did poorly in an exam or you were scolded by the teacher in the class when you were being unruly or something and you feel sad. But when you're going home, you see children playing in the park or you see a small puppy chasing its tail and it falling down. So even the small thing can actually make you happy. So that is what you got to mention here. Let's go to the next poem. Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. So here, this poem talks about two powerful human emotions, that is desire and hatred. So it is symbolized as fire and ice here. So Frost suggests that both can lead to the world's destruction. Fire symbolizes passion and greed, and ice symbolizes hatred and indifference. It's not caring for others or not caring about other situations. So the poem warns that both fire and ice, the extreme of emotions, are equally dangerous and can destroy every person and the world thereon. So let us go to the paper questions. There are many ideas about how the world will end. What do you think the ending of the world will be like? So you can give sample like what happens when the earth becomes too hot. The sun will burn too much and it will burn all life on earth. So you will just burn and die. So we can use this as global warming, something that comes closer to that. And you can also mention if it is becoming too cold, what will happen? Ice age will turn back. You have already seen in movies. Ice age will be back and everything will freeze over. And it will not be a human living condition will be lost. So that one you can mention. Next question. For Frost, what do fire and ice stand for? So they have given a couple of words here in a box and you have to mention or you can club them together under fire and ice. So fire, we can assume the words such as greed, conflict, avarice. Avarice means extreme greed, and fury and lust, passion. So for ice, we can have insensitivity, coldness, cruelty, intolerance, indifference, rigidity, and hatred. So all these emotions, they speak of a specific emotion. For example, fire symbolizes that greed and desire and lust and uncontrollable passion. So these are the emotion that burns and consumes ourselves. And sometimes we hurt others also. And as for cold, that is ice, it stands for hatred, indifference, and intolerance. And these are the emotions that freeze and destroy relationships. Because once you are not talking to someone and you are so cold and distant with someone, they lose the interest in you. They feel that you have lost interest in them and they just move on and they leave you alone. So cold, as in ice, is also a strong emotion. what is the rhyme scheme of the poem and how does it help delineate the contrasting ideas in the poem. So rhyme scheme of the poem is AVA, ABC, BCP, and emphasizing that either extreme, that's both hot or cold, that is fire and ice, that is desire and hatred, can equally destroy the world. So that brings to the end of our chapter 1 in English for class 10. So you have any further doubts, please don't forget to comment or contact us at Go Ask Now Academy. So thank you for joining us, and please feel free to ask any questions regarding the chapter, and see you soon in the next video. Thank you.